Trayvon Martin's mother thanked the special prosecutor today, and she thanked God for the charges brought in the killing of her son. Joining me for reaction to Florida versus Zimmerman, Charles M. Blow of the New York Times, Mark Thompson of SiriusXM Radio, and Joy Ann Reid of thegrio.com. They're all here for more of our coverage coming up.
Today, we filed an information charging George Zimmerman with murder in the second degree. A capias has been issued for his arrest. With the filing of that information and the issuance of a capias, he will have a right to appear in front of a magistrate in Seminole County within 24 hours of his arrest, and thus formal prosecution will begin.
Joining me now is Charles M. Blow, New York Times opinion writer, Mark Thompson, host of Make It Plain on SiriusXM Radio, and Joy Ann Reid, MSNBC contributor and managing editor of thegrio.com. Charles, we are now talking about Florida versus Zimmerman, case number 171-2F04573. It seems like it was a long road to get here, but really in legal prosecutorial terms, it's only been a matter of 3 weeks since this special prosecutor came into the picture, and that seems to have changed everything. I guess we do not let's see. Joy Ann Reid, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, we lost Charles's audio, and Mark Thompson, we're just going to check your audio. You're with me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Joanne, this prosecutor moved quickly, in my judgment, based on when she took over, especially when we learned today from her that she made arrangements last week for taking George Zimmerman into custody, how they would do that, and they had discussions with the judge about how they would handle a bail hearing involving this case, and they had that discussion last week. So she's known for a while that she was headed for these charges today.
Yeah, and I think Angela Corey, actually, she's getting a lot of applause, I can tell you, from people that I've spoken to tonight, for just the careful way that she's handled the case and the deliberate way that she's handled it. She didn't hold herself to that April 10th deadline, but she got very close, and she really sort of managed the expectations of the family of Trayvon Martin, you know, in speaking to them even initially when she first talked to them, but then proceeding to what everyone that I've talked to tonight feels is a just result.
Charles M. Blow, I think we have your sound restored at this point. Well, you know, the problem, Charles, is that you are actually in the world headquarters of MSNBC, so of course we're going to have wiring troubles there. Joyanne's standing out in the street in Florida, and we can hear her. But Charles, emotionally, this has been a long time coming, but when you look at the jurisprudential course charted by this special prosecutor from the day she took the case, especially since she was having discussions last week with a potential judge in the case about how to handle a bail hearing, she, I think, we can now say, moved very quickly from the day she picked up this file.
Right. I think that you could probably say that because the investigations like this can take quite a long time, particularly when you're jumping in kind of late in the ball game. The Sanford police had the investigation first, and they were kind of, the state investigator was kind of thrown in it after public pressure had been applied and the ante had been upped in this case. So yes, I mean, I don't see any problem with the timing there at all.
Let's listen to what Tracy Martin, Trayvon's father, told Reverend Al Sharpton earlier tonight.
I would ask him, did he have any regrets? Did he realize that he destroyed a life? He destroyed a family? And that had he second guessed it, would he just stayed in the car? Most certainly, I have no hatred towards him, but I would just like for him to look into my eyes and feel my hurt, feel my family's pain. A seed has been taken away from us that can't be given back to us, but at the same time, I just would want to know how he feel about taking our son's life.
Mark Thompson, there is no evidence yet that the Zimmerman family does feel the Martin family's hurt. Robert Zimmerman, George Zimmerman's brother, was on CNN tonight once again trying to try the case on television, talking about the fear that his brother had and all that sort of thing. But the new attorney in the case, Mark O'Mara, the very first thing he said on national television tonight was that he extended his condolences to the Martin family. Do you think that this is now the possible beginning of some kind of calm coming over what is now the case of Florida versus Zimmerman?
I believe so, Lawrence. I certainly hope so. I think you said it best. George Zimmerman now, for a change, does have professional legal representation, and I think Mark O'Mara represented himself well. I think Angela Corey represented herself well. She showed a great deal of compassion toward whom she called the constitutional victims in this case, and those would be the Martin family. I think there is an opportunity for calm here, because what has happened, as Reverend Sharpton has said, this is not necessarily a moment for celebration because a tragedy has occurred. But the people of this country, all over the country, cried out, and for that matter, the very rocks cried out. But everyone spoke up, and while it's probably not appropriate to say that prosecution was brought as a result of people crying out and protesting and what have you and wearing hoodies, it is probably appropriate to say that there was another review, a greater and more careful and more deliberate review of the case because people cried out. I think Chris Matthews said earlier, the heat brought light. And so as a result of that, we have this. We may even be able to say at this moment, I think we can at this very moment, that this is an example of the justice system working. Frankly, I think it even works now for Zimmerman. Why wouldn't he want to put on his own defense? That's the right one has in America. Why would you want to be tried in the court of public opinion? Why would you want to have to hide your face from now on? So I think even for him, this works out for the best.
Attorney General Eric Holder verbally stepped into the case today in Washington. There is a separate federal investigation that is still going on, and he reminded us of that. Let's listen to what he had to say today.
As a parent, I reacted to it. This is a pain that no parent should have to endure. We also have, I think, a reaction that is based on issues that we have faced in this nation over the years. The primary responsibility we have in the Justice Department is to support the state in its ongoing investigation, to do our own thorough and parallel investigation, which we are in the process of doing, and try to resolve this matter in as fair and complete a way and as quickly as we can.
Charles Blow, I will spare you Rush Limbaugh's reaction to all of this kind of thing, but it seems that we're at a point in our politics where it is risky for the Attorney General of the United States politically in this environment, this very contentious environment we have, to simply make what would be normal public comment about a federal investigation like this.
Right. Thank you for sparing me, Rush. I don't want to hear about Rush. This is not about Rush. This is not about any of the pundits. This is not about me. This is not about people who march in the streets necessarily, although that pressure actually helped to bring some justice in this case. This is about a 17-year-old boy in a Florida grave. This is about his family that will never get a chance to hear his voice ever again. This is about a man who took his life, and whether or not the law protects George Zimmerman or George Zimmerman violated that law. And it is about justice. It is about people's faith in the justice system. The only way that America works is that we have faith that the justice system will work for us. You know, Martin Luther King said, you know, in the mountaintop speech in 1968, all we say to America is just be true to what you said on paper. If you are saying that all people are created equally and that justice is blind and justice must be blindly applied and blindly pursued, that means that if a black person commits a crime, they should be no more harshly prosecuted or no more leniently prosecuted than anybody else. And that means that if a black person is the victim of a crime, then that person who committed the crime against them should be no more leniently prosecuted or no more harshly prosecuted. I mean, Lawrence, I love America, not because America is perfect, but because America strives towards perfection. But America is like a garden, and you have to constantly tend that garden so that the weeds don't take it over. And whenever the weeds of injustice spring up in that garden, you have to work to pull it out. And that is what is happening in this case. America has basically risen up and said, there is a weed in this garden, and we need to get it out. And Eric Holder needs to be able to say that. The president needs to be able to say that. And nobody should take that as a partisan jab.
We will have more on the breaking news developments in the case of Florida versus Zimmerman coming up. Stay with us.